continuing the trek up Max Patch. All right, we're at the summit of Max Patch. All right, we're heading down the other side of Max Patch, and I believe we're heading down to Lemon Gap in about we'll be there in about 3 miles. Now we went down Max Patch on the other side, and looks like we are heading to the trees. Man, it's incredible. Got in the trees and it's so much cooler. Still heading to Lemon Gap. Before we get to Lemon Gap, we'll be at, I believe, Roaring Fork Shelter. I think we're gonna stop there and probably have some lunch. So we got time with Jerry right now. You want to tell us about this
The
species?
American chestnut. This is a remnant tree from way back a long time ago. The chestnut trees were destroyed by the chestnut blight, and on this trail you can walk around and find remnant stump coppicing from the chestnut trees. And this is your moment in nature with Jerry.
Awesome.
You like that? Yeah.
The green tunnel.
That's some mud.
Now, this is incredible. It's almost noon. It looks dark through here almost. This is pretty cool. Still heading to Roaring Fork Shelter. Coming up to this cool, I heard this is a cattle gate. Pretty neat. We're a little over 2 miles from the Max Patch trailhead and coming to a great water source here. Nothing like getting your feet a little wet. We just got to Roaring Fork Shelter, and just a little bit not far away from the shelter, there's a nice little privy here. So we are leaving Roaring Fork Shelter, and we are actually heading to Lemon Gap. I think we've got about 3.6 miles. Then from there, at least another about 1.5 miles or so to Walnut Mountain Shelter, where we're going to set up for the night. Man, this is pretty awesome. Man, this is pretty awesome too. This section has some pretty cool stuff, man. Going across a cool bridge here. If you can't already tell by my excitement, I would definitely recommend hitting this section. Max Patch to Hot Springs on the AT. We're probably about a mile or so from Roaring Fork Shelter, still heading to Lemon Gap. Come across this awesome waterfall. So we got an awesome little water source here. We just filled up our water bottles. We use a Sawyer water filter. There's a bear. Dude, in the tree. Oh my word. They were in the tree. That was amazing. There you go. Wow. So we just saw something amazing. That mama bear just came down that tree so fast, and two cubs came down. They ran off actually in this direction. The AT switches back and goes in the direction that they were running. So we're keeping our eye open now. For the past 5 miles or so, we're just joking about keeping our eye on the trail to keep a lookout for snakes, and now we're gonna have to keep an eye out for the trees for the bear. So anyway, it's an amazing trip. All right, we just reached Lemon Gap. You see the AT right there. So we got to cross the road, and so we got about a 1.2 mile trek up Walnut Mountain, and I think that's where we're going to set up for camp tonight. So we just came out of the woods. Up there, we're almost at the summit of Walnut Mountain, and this was it was a beast climbing up there. So right over that ridge line there, we'll descend a little bit to our campsite at Walnut Mountain Shelter. Walnut Mountain Shelter up ahead. Big Sydney leading the way.
Also known as Paradise.
We're going to get here, take a breather, set up camp. chill out for a little bit, eat a good dinner. So some people might say that a camping chair is useless weight. I say get one. It's definitely good to have. What do you think, Jason, Sydney?
Right. It's awesome.
So some people might say that a backpacking chair is unnecessary weight, but if you can afford the extra weight, I definitely would invest in on one of these backpacking chairs. Hey guys, what do you think?
It's so incredible.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
So just walked a little side trail. Not sure if you can see up in the distance is Walnut Mountain Shelter, and the other guys are sitting up there. Came down here to scope out this cool little campsite. Already got a little fire ring set up there, and I think I'm gonna probably pitch my tent right there. So we're walking down this Blue Blaze Trail to get some water. This is just a pretty short distance from Walnut Mountain Shelter. Check out this water source. I'm gonna fill up and head back to the campsite, cook some dinner.
You getting some in your bag? I do.
Yeah, so we're filtering our water.
I mean, it sure is filtering it. I mean, look at that. It's clear. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So this is where the water filters really come into play. So there's our water source. Pretty dirty looking. We got it coming down. So we're coming out of Rattlesnake Gap at the water source, heading back up to the shelter and the tent site. So I want to give a little debrief of day one. We are doing a 21 or 22 mile section from Max Patch back to Hot Springs, North Carolina. And so today we started at Max Patch, and we did a total of 7.5 miles today. It was a wonderful section, going over the bald of Max Patch, 360-degree views. It was great weather. We descended down 2.7 miles to Roaring Fork Shelter. Had a bite to eat for lunch, rested a little bit, and continued on to Lemon Gap, and finally up Walnut Mountain to here to Walnut Mountain Shelter, which you can see in the background. The guys are back there getting their food ready. But the hike from Lemon Gap up Walnut Mountain, pretty strenuous, but it was a great climb. And so we're gonna stay here. We've got our tent set up down a trail a little bit below from the shelter there, and in the morning we're going to descend Walnut Mountain down into to another gap. I think it's Cat Pen Gap, and then we're going to climb Bluff Mountain. So I think we've got about 1,700 feet of elevation gain tomorrow, and a little over 2,000 elevation descent over the 10 miles that we're going to be going, and we're going to end up at Deer Park Mountain Shelter tomorrow night, and that's where we're going to set up camp. Overall, wonderful day one, and I'll catch back in and give another debrief of day two tomorrow night. All right, get ready to hang my bear bag. We just had a dinner. So we got our bags hung. Hopefully that'll be pretty good to keep the bears from getting them.
Farm-Aid's gonna be on.
I can see why you think you belong to me. Never tried to make you think, let you see one thing for yourself. I can feel it go down. You can see, you can tell.
So there's our campsite. Got 4 tents set up. It's Friday morning. We're getting ready to do some breakfast and pack up and hit the trail. So we are on day 2. Great night last night. We had a great campsite, and we have 10 miles today going from Walnut Mountain Shelter, and we'll be setting up camp tonight at Deer Park Mountain Shelter. We have a 1,000-foot climb, a little less than 2 miles going up to the top of Bluff Mountain, and then it'll be mostly downhill from there for about 7.5 to 8 miles. So should be the hard part's going to be this morning, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to a good day. We are back down here at a Rattlesnake Gap trying to get some more water this morning. Again, we are trying something a little different. Something learned online. Cutting off end of a Coke bottle and using that to scoop and put in to your water bag. Seems to be doing a little better job, especially when you don't have a lot of flow like we were trying last night, just using the bag. So looks like it's going to work pretty well, and we'll go from there. So if you're planning to do this section of the AT and you're going to be staying around Walnut Mountain Shelter, this water source is it's not a far hike from the shelter. It's down at Rattlesnake Gap, and as you can see, this water source, there's not a lot of free-flowing water, so definitely bring something to scoop water with, and then you can just filter it. And I'm using the Sawyer squeeze, and it's actually doing pretty good. So we did this last night, and the water tasted great despite the source. So definitely recommend the Sawyer squeeze. So we're heading down from Walnut Mountain Shelter to Kale Gap, and then from Kale Gap we'll be going up 1.8 miles, ascending right at 1,000 feet elevation over the 1.8 miles. It's a clear morning. Feels good out here. Through Kale Gap, and we are climbing up 1,000 feet to Bluff Mountain. Actually, we're climbing up Bluff Mountain, but 1,000 feet to the peak. We're going to go through an area maybe about a half a mile called Cat Pen Gap.
Wow, look at that water right there.
Still heading up to the top of Bluff Mountain. We just went through Cat Pen Gap. So we just summited Bluff Mountain, and we are heading down the other side, down to Garofalo Gap. and then we'll continue on another 3 miles or so to Deer Park Mountain Shelter. Bluff Mountain was definitely a good climb. Unlike Walnut Mountain seemed to be kind of more straight up. So when they designed the trail going up Bluff Mountain, there were a lot more switchbacks, so it was a little bit easier, but definitely some good climbs. I think, again, about 1,000-foot elevation climb up Bluff, and now downhill from here. Now that is a cool cave.
Be great in a storm, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I hear you back there. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And that right there.
Let's go explore this a little bit. Wow.
The world's more interesting if you don't wear your glasses.
Yeah, that is pretty cool right there. Wildlife on the AT. It's a cool little guy. So we're here at Garenflow Gap, and according to the sign there, we are 3.4 miles to Deer Park Shelter, and that's where we're going to set up camp tonight. We're continuing the trek to Deer Park Mountain Shelter. We're close to Deer Park Mountain Shelter. So after 10 miles for the day, we have reached Deer Park Mountain Shelter.
So based on what I saw a little while ago, it's not like right there. It's gonna be 5 more minutes. It seemed like, just from what I was looking at. So, well, if y'all want to get the water now, so I can make it down another trip.
Walking down to the water source across from Deer Park Mountain Shelter. Pretty good water source here.
Yeah, it is.
Day 2 was fantastic. We did about 10 miles a day starting at Walnut Mountain Shelter. We descended about 600 feet into Kale Gap, where we then climbed almost 1,000 feet to the top of Bluff Mountain. From Bluff Mountain, we descend into Garofalo Gap, where we continue our hike about just over 3 miles to Deer Park Mountain Shelter, which you can see behind me. We decided to go ahead and set up camp here. Please note there is a water source across the AT from the Blue Blaze Trail to the shelter. And on the way to the water source, there's a lot of pretty fantastic campsites if you decide to do this section and you're looking for a campsite. So, and the water source was free flowing. So looking forward to tomorrow, day 3. We will be getting back to our destination at Hot Springs, hopefully by lunchtime tomorrow. And just looking forward to a fantastic day.
We got the lasagna.
Mountain House Meals.
Yep, it's cooking right now in the bag. I think I've got about 6 minutes left, and then we'll be ready to roll.
Got there, Sid.
Dude, I'm getting ready to have some beef teriyaki. And actually, it's chicken teriyaki. And then we're going to dole out the apple crisp in a little while.
Jace.
I've got chili mac with beef.
Chili mac
Good.
Yeah, we're having a Fleet Foxes concert.
Fleet Foxes with the disco lights.
So we are starting up day 3. Just finished some breakfast at the shelter, heading down to the water source to fill up water for the day, and we have a pretty short walk, just over 3 miles back down to Hot Springs. We've made it here to Hot Springs, and now it's time to get a good lunch. So we just rolled back here to Hot Springs, where we just knocked off another section of the Appalachian Trail. We did 21 miles from Max Patch back here to Hot Springs. If you get an opportunity to do this section, I would highly recommend it. And until next time, happy hiking.